You unlock your phone with them, forensic investigators build entire cases around them, and every single person alive, including identical twins, has a completely unique version of them. For well over a century, the explanation for why fingerprints exist at all seemed obvious: better grip. Newer research suggests that widely accepted explanation might not actually be right, and the real story might be considerably stranger. The grip explanation makes intuitive sense at first glance, which is likely why it stuck around unquestioned for so long, taught confidently in classrooms and textbooks without much pushback. Fingerprints are technically called friction ridges, and the assumption was straightforward. Raised ridges on skin should work something like tire treads, increasing surface friction and helping fingers grip objects securely, preventing things from slipping out of your hand at an inconvenient moment. It's a clean, satisfying explanation, repeated in textbooks for generations without much direct experimental testing behind it, largely because it simply sounded reasonable enough that nobody felt an urgent need to check. When researchers actually tested this assumption directly, rather than simply accepting it as obvious common sense, the results were genuinely surprising. A study led by biomechanics researcher Roland Enos at the University of Manchester measured the actual friction produced by fingerprint ridges against various surfaces under controlled laboratory conditions, and found that ridged skin didn't consistently outperform smooth skin at increasing grip the way the traditional explanation assumed it would. In some specific testing conditions, the ridged surface actually reduced the total contact area touching an object, which should, if anything, work slightly against the simple grip explanation rather than clearly support it the way most people had long assumed. An alternative explanation has gained serious traction instead, proposing that fingerprint ridges exist primarily to enhance tactile sensitivity rather than grip specifically. Under this hypothesis, ridges help amplify tiny vibrations generated as a fingertip moves across a textured surface, feeding sharper, more detailed information directly into the nervous system. Rather than functioning like tire treads, fingerprints may work more like a set of tiny amplifiers, boosting the signal your fingertip sends to your brain about exactly what it's currently touching. The specific mechanism proposed involves specialized touch receptors in the skin called Pacinian corpuscles, which are particularly sensitive to vibration and rapid changes in pressure across the skin's surface. Ridged skin appears to concentrate and funnel these vibration signals more efficiently toward these specific receptors compared to perfectly smooth skin, effectively sharpening the resolution of tactile information your nervous system receives in real time as you move a finger across something. That difference could meaningfully improve your ability to distinguish fine surface textures, subtle bumps, or delicate material differences that smooth skin alone might blur together into much less useful, less detailed sensory information reaching your brain. Think about the difference between running a smooth glass marble across your fingertip versus running a piece of coarse sandpaper across that exact same spot, paying close attention to how differently each one actually feels. The sandpaper feels dramatically more detailed and textured, not simply rougher in some vague overall sense that's hard to pin down precisely. Under the vibration sensing hypothesis, ridged fingerprints are doing something conceptually similar every single time you touch anything at all, converting subtle surface texture into a stronger, richer vibration signal your nervous system can actually pick apart and interpret with real precision, rather than receiving a duller, blurrier version of that same physical information passing through smooth skin instead. A widely cited 2009 study published in the journal Science, led by researcher Julian Schabert, tested this idea directly using an artificial robotic fingertip built specifically for this kind of precise, controlled experiment. Researchers built versions with fine ridges closely mimicking human fingerprints, alongside a completely smooth control version for direct comparison, and measured how effectively each version picked up vibration signals while sliding across different textured surfaces at a consistent speed and pressure. The ridged artificial fingertip consistently produced stronger, more distinct vibration signals than the smooth version did across repeated trials, offering direct physical evidence supporting the tactile sensing explanation over pure friction alone, rather than relying purely on theoretical argument. Sharper tactile discrimination carries genuine practical value that goes well beyond simple curiosity about texture for its own sake. Identifying an object accurately by touch alone, in low light, inside a pocket or a bag without looking, or while handling delicate materials requiring careful, precise manipulation, would have offered real, tangible benefits throughout human history in situations where vision simply wasn't available or reliable. Early humans relying heavily on fine hand-based tool use and detailed manual work would likely have benefited considerably from sharper tactile feedback, not just from stronger raw gripping strength alone, especially when working with small, intricate objects requiring real precision. Fingerprint patterns themselves carry another genuinely interesting wrinkle worth mentioning directly, one that ties in closely with everything else this video has already covered. Even identical twins, who share essentially the same DNA down to the letter, still end up with distinctly different fingerprint patterns from one another once they're born. That's because the specific ridge pattern isn't directly coded by genetics in fine detail the way eye color or blood type might be. It emerges from small, essentially random variations during fetal development in the womb, including subtle differences in the surrounding amniotic fluid, pressure, and precise positioning as skin ridges form over several weeks. That randomness is exactly why fingerprints work so reliably as a genuinely unique personal identifier, even for people who are otherwise genetically identical to each other. The uniqueness of fingerprints has a genuinely interesting history of its own, separate from the tactile sensing debate itself, and reaching back much further than most people would assume. Researcher Francis Galton published influential work in the late 1800s systematically studying fingerprint patterns across thousands of individuals, helping establish both their individual uniqueness and a workable classification system that law enforcement agencies could actually use in practice for the first time. Scotland Yard adopted fingerprint identification as a standard investigative tool not long afterward, and that same basic system, refined considerably since then with modern digital scanning technology, still underpins criminal investigations, background checks, and the biometric security systems built into phones and laptops used every single day around the world by billions of people. It's worth being fair here, since the full picture likely isn't quite as simple as one theory completely replacing the other, with a clean, tidy verdict researchers can all agree on immediately. Some research suggests fingerprint ridges may still provide a genuine grip advantage specifically in wet conditions, potentially helping channel away excess moisture somewhat similar to how tire treads work on a rain-soaked road, even if that advantage doesn't hold up nearly as consistently under dry conditions. The most balanced, currently reasonable conclusion is that fingerprints likely serve multiple overlapping functions simultaneously, tactile sensitivity and situational grip assistance, both playing meaningful roles depending on the specific circumstances involved, rather than one single, complete explanation covering absolutely everything on its own. Every time your phone unlocks with a simple touch, or a fingerprint helps identify someone in a criminal investigation, that entire system depends on a feature whose original evolutionary purpose researchers are still actively working out in real detail, over a century after it first became a standard forensic tool. The pattern on your fingertip likely isn't there primarily to help you hold onto things securely, despite what most people, including plenty of textbooks, have long assumed without much direct testing behind the claim. It's very possibly there to help you feel the world around you with considerably more precision and detail than smooth skin ever could have provided on its own. The next time you press your thumb against a screen to unlock it, you're relying on a feature science originally explained one way and is now busy quietly rewriting the story behind, one careful experiment at a time. That's exactly the kind of hidden thread this channel exists to dig up. If you want more of these, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.